The mining colony on Kepler 442 had become home to 300 souls from a dozen different species. Humans worked alongside the tall blue-skinned Aventhi, the small furry Kelmer, and even a few of the crystalline gent who processed ore with their natural electromagnetic ability. A 10-year-old Danny Carter sat in the common garden with his friends, laughing as a young Kelmer named Pip tried to climb the earth apple tree his mother had planted last spring. The boy's blonde hair caught the afternoon light as he encouraged his alien friend to reach higher. "You can do it, Pip," Danny called out, his green eyes bright with excitement. Lisa Carter watched from the administration building nearby, smiling at her son's joy. She had taken the job as colony administrator 2 years ago, hoping to give Danny a chance to grow up among the stars. Learning that the galaxy was full of friends rather than strangers, Lucas Grant walked past the garden on his security rounds, nodding to Lisa with his usual quiet demeanor. The stocky man with dark hair and weathered features never said much, but everyone in the colony trusted him completely. The other security officers called him Honey Badger behind his back, though never with disrespect. The nickname came from his stubborn refusal to give up on anything, whether it was fixing a broken water recycler or tracking down a lost maintenance drone through 3 kilometers of rocky terrain. "Hey, Lucas," Danny waved at the security officer. "Want to see Pip climb the tree?" Lucas paused, his brown eyes crinkling with a rare smile. "Maybe later, kid. Got to check the perimeter sensors first." The peaceful afternoon shattered when alarms began wailing across the colony. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors and public spaces, sending colonists scrambling in confusion. Lisa's communication device crackled to life with urgent voices overlapping each other. Her face went pale as she listened to the reports coming in from the outer sensor grid. "All residents to shelters immediately." She broadcast through the colony-wide system, her voice steady despite the fear creeping into her chest. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Danny jumped down from where he had been sitting, his heart suddenly pounding. "Mom? What's happening?" The Aventhi families were already running toward the underground shelters, their long legs carrying them faster than humans could move. The Kelmer scattered in panic, their small bodies darting into any available hiding space. Lucas appeared beside Lisa, his expression calm but focused. "What are we dealing with?" "Vampiri," Lisa whispered, the word heavy with dread. 3 ships inbound. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Vampiri. They were the nightmare the parents used to scare children into behaving. The monsters that appeared in warning stories across 1,000 worlds. Tall and pale, moving with supernatural grace, the Vampiri hunted other species for their neural energy. They would place their cold hands on a victim's head and drain the life force directly from their brain, leaving behind an empty shell that could breathe and eat but never think or feel again. No species had ever successfully fought off a Vampiri raid. Their speed was too great, their reflexes too perfect, their hunger too absolute. Galactic Council forces? Lucas asked, already knowing the answer would be bad. 3 days out, Lisa confirmed, her hands shaking as she pulled up the shelter protocols. "We're on our own." Danny felt ice flooding through his veins as he listened. He had heard the stories, the whispered tales from alien merchants passing through the colony. The warnings that Vampiri never failed and never showed mercy. "Get to Shelter 17 with the other children," Lisa told her son, gripping his shoulders. "Stay quiet, stay hidden, and don't open the door for anyone except me or another human. Do you understand?" Danny nodded, unable to speak past the lump of fear in his throat. Lucas was already coordinating with the remaining security staff. Most of them Aventhi, who were brave enough to carry weapons, but clearly terrified of what was coming. He could see it in their large eyes, the way their hands trembled as they checked their energy rifles. "I'm taking the eastern perimeter," Lucas announced, picking up his equipment pack. Need to seal the greenhouse domes and activate the outer barriers. The Avanthi security chief, a tall being named Vorath, stared at Lucas in disbelief. You cannot be serious. The Vampiri will kill anyone outside the shelters. Then I'll slow them down long enough for everyone else to get safe, Lucas replied, his voice carrying no doubt or fear. Just simple determination. This is madness, Vorath hissed, his blue skin darkening with stress. Humans truly are insane. Lucas shrugged and headed for the eastern exit, moving with the same steady pace he always used. Panic was useless. Fear was useless. Only action mattered. Danny ran toward Shelter 17 with a group of other children, both human and alien. The corridors were chaos as families scrambled to reach safety. Carrying whatever belongings they could grab, the boy turned a corner too fast and collided with a gent adult, bouncing off the crystalline being's hard surface. He stumbled, falling to his knees as the crowd surged past him. By the time Danny got back to his feet, the corridor had emptied. Everyone else had already sealed themselves into the shelters, and the automated lockdown was beginning. Heavy blast doors started sliding shut throughout the colony, dividing the facility into secure sections that could be isolated if the outer defenses failed. Danny ran for Shelter 17, but the door sealed 5 meters before he could reach it. He pounded on the metal surface, shouting for them to let him in, but the shelter protocol was absolute. Once the doors closed, his communication device buzzed. It was his mother's voice, tight with controlled panic. Danny, where are you? The corridor outside Shelter 17, he gasped, fighting back tears. The door closed. I couldn't get there in time. Oh, God, Lisa breathed, and Danny could hear her typing frantically. Okay, listen to me. The greenhouse dome 3 is 20 meters from your position. There's an emergency access panel on the east wall. Code is 5592. Get inside and hide in the growth beds. Mom, I'm scared. I know, baby. I know, his mother's voice cracked, but you're going to be okay. Just get to the greenhouse and stay quiet. I'm sending Lucas to you right now. Danny ran down the empty corridor, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The emergency lights cast everything in red shadows that seemed to reach for him. Like grasping hands, he found the greenhouse access panel and entered the code with shaking fingers. The door hissed open, revealing the humid interior filled with earth plants that his mother had cultivated to remind the human colonists of home. The boy slipped inside and the door sealed behind him, leaving him alone among the tomato plants and bean vines and the small apple tree that Pip had been climbing just minutes before. Danny crawled between the growth beds, making himself as small as possible. He clutched his knees to his chest and tried to breathe quietly like his mother had taught him during emergency drills. Distant sound of something impacting the colony's outer hull echoed through the walls. The Vampiri had arrived through the greenhouse's transparent dome. Danny could see 3 sleek, dark ships settling onto the landing pad like hunting birds finding their perch. The ships were beautiful in a terrible way, all smooth curves and dark metal that seemed to drink in the light. A hatch opened on the nearest ship, and something emerged. Danny's breath caught in his throat as he saw his first vampire arrive. The being was tall, taller than any human, with skin so pale it was almost luminescent. It moved like water flowing, each step impossibly graceful. Wearing dark armor that looked like it had been grown rather than built, 2 more Vampiri emerged from the other ships, and all 3 turned their heads in perfect unison toward the colony buildings. Even from this distance, Danny could see their eyes completely black from edge to edge with no white visible. One of the Vampiri separated from the others and began walking directly toward the greenhouse dome. It moved without hurry, confident and patient. Like a cat that knows the mouse has nowhere to run, Danny pressed himself deeper into the shadows between the growth beds, his whole body shaking. This was real. This was actually happening, and he was alone. His communication device buzzed softly. Lucas Grant's calm voice filled the tiny speaker. "Danny, I'm coming." "Hold on, kid." The greenhouse door hissed open and the vampire stepped inside. The vampire moved through the greenhouse like a shadow given form, its movements too smooth to be natural. Danny could hear it walking between the plant beds, footsteps barely making a sound on the metal floor. The creature's breathing was strange, slow and deep, as though it was tasting the air. Danny held his own breath, trying to become invisible, willing himself to disappear. "I can smell your fear." "Little one," the vampire spoke in perfect English, its voice like silk sliding over broken glass. "Your heart beats so fast like a frightened rabbit." "It calls to me." Danny squeezed his eyes shut, pressing his hands over his mouth to keep from whimpering. His whole body felt frozen, locked in place by terror that went beyond anything he had ever experienced. The vampire continued speaking as it stalked through the greenhouse, clearly enjoying the hunt. "You are young, yes? A human child. I have never tasted a young human mind before. They say your species dreams in colors we cannot imagine." The creature's shadow fell across Danny's hiding spot. Through the leaves of the tomato plants, the boy could see pale fingers with too many joints reaching toward the vegetation. "Your neural patterns will be exquisite." The vampire purred. "So much fear, so much life. When I drain you, I will experience everything you have ever felt, every memory, every hope. You will live on inside me forever, in a way." Danny's terror spiked to a level that felt like drowning. He couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except shake and wait for those terrible hands to find him, though you will not be aware of it. "Of course," the vampire added casually. "After I am done, you will still breathe and walk. But the part that makes you, you will be gone. You will be a shell, empty and hollow. Your mother will look into your eyes and find nothing looking back." Tears streamed down Danny's face as the monster described his fate. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't work. Wanted to scream, but his voice had abandoned him. The greenhouse door opened again, and the vampire paused in its hunting. Turning its head with predatory curiosity, Lucas Grant stepped inside, empty-handed and calm. He wasn't running, wasn't shouting, just walking at a normal pace like he was taking an evening stroll. The vampire tilted its head, studying this new arrival with black eyes that reflected no light. "Another human? How unexpected. Your kind usually runs when they encounter us." "Let the kid go," Lucas said, his voice steady and conversational. "You've got no use for him." The vampire laughed, a sound like wind chimes made of bones. "I have every use for him. His fear is delicious. His neural energy is fresh and uncorrupted. Why would I release such a prize?" "Because I'm asking you to," Lucas replied, taking another step forward. Positioning himself between the vampire and where Danny was hiding, the creature studied Lucas with growing interest, its head tilting further than any human neck could manage. "You show no fear." "How curious. Every species we have encountered demonstrates fear when facing us. It is a universal constant. Fear's just a chemical reaction," Lucas said. "Adrenaline, cortisol, elevated heart rate. Useful in the right context, waste of energy in the wrong one." The vampire moved closer to Lucas, its movements liquid and hypnotic. "You are either very brave or very stupid." "I wonder which." "Neither," Lucas answered, his brown eyes tracking the creature's every movement. "Just experienced. I faced down grizzly bears, polar storms, and desert heat that could cook a man alive. You're scary, I'll give you that, but you're not the scariest thing I've ever met." Danny watched from his hiding place, still terrified, but now feeling something else mixing with the fear. Hope, fragile and small but growing as he listened to Lucas speak. The vampire extended one pale hand toward Lucas's face. "Let me show you what fear truly is." Let me touch your mind and show you nightmares beyond your comprehension. Danny, close your eyes and keep them closed no matter what you hear, Lucas said calmly, not looking away from the vampire. This might get ugly. The boy obeyed immediately. Pressing his palms over his closed eyelids, the vampire smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. You cannot win, human. We are faster, stronger, more evolved. Your species is nothing but prey pretending to be predators. Funny thing about prey species, Lucas said, and Danny could hear him moving his feet, adjusting his stance. We tend to be survivors. Predators are impressive right up until their food supply runs out. Then they starve while the prey keeps on living. Philosophy will not save you. Don't need philosophy, Lucas replied. Just need to understand your patterns. You've already made 3 mistakes since you walked in here. The vampire's confidence flickered for just a moment. Mistakes? You walked past the irrigation controls without checking them. You positioned yourself with the sun behind you when the dome glass focuses heat. And you assumed I came in here unarmed. Lucas rattled off the list like he was reading a grocery list. The vampire tensed, reassessing the human before it. Clever observations, but meaningless. I could kill you before you could take another breath. Probably, Lucas agreed. But the question isn't whether you can kill me. The question is whether you can do it fast enough to stop me from doing what I came here to do. And what did you come here to do? Keep that kid alive, Lucas said simply. That's the only thing that matters. The vampire's black eyes studied Lucas with an intensity that felt like physical pressure. Your species fascinates me. You know you will die, yet you continue. Why? Because that's what humans do, Lucas answered. We keep going. It's kind of our thing. The creature moved then, faster than thought, crossing the distance to Lucas in a blur of motion. Its hand shot out and grabbed Lucas by the head. Pale fingers spreading across his skull. Danny heard Lucas grunt but didn't hear him scream. The boy kept his eyes closed but his whole body tensed, waiting for the sound of his protector falling. The vampire began its neural drain, pulling energy from Lucas's mind. The process should have been instant, should have left the human a mindless husk within seconds. But something was wrong. The vampire's confident expression twisted into confusion, then discomfort, then actual pain. Its hand trembled against Lucas's skull as memories flooded through the connection it saw Earth. That brutal death world where everything evolved to survive the impossible. It experienced Lucas's memories of surviving 3 days in sub-zero temperatures with only a knife and a fire starter. Walking 40 kilometers through a blizzard because stopping meant freezing to death. It felt the memory of Lucas being chased by a grizzly bear through the Canadian wilderness. Running for 2 hours straight until a bear's superior speed meant nothing against human endurance. The bear gave up, exhausted. While Lucas kept running, it experienced the sheer stubborn refusal to quit that defined human psychology, shaped by millions of years of evolution on a planet that tried to kill its inhabitants in every possible way. The vampire broke contact, staggering backward with what looked like genuine shock on its pale features. It stared at Lucas like seeing him for the first time. Lucas swayed on his feet, obviously dazed, but he didn't fall. He blinked hard, steadying himself, and took another step toward the vampire. What are you? The creature whispered, its voice lacking its earlier confidence. I'm from Earth, Lucas said, his words slightly slurred but gaining strength. We don't have speed like you, don't have natural weapons like you, don't have mental powers like you. What we have is the ability to keep getting up. You can knock us down 100 times, and we'll stand up 101. The vampire touched its own head, clearly disturbed by what it had experienced. Your mind is chaos, pain accumulated over years, trauma layered upon trauma. How do you function? Practice, Lucas replied, shaking off the last effects of the neural drain. You live on Earth long enough. You get used to things trying to kill you. Builds character. Warning klaxons suddenly blared through the colony's communication system. Lisa Carter's voice cut through, urgent and frightened. Lucas, the other two vampiri have breached the main shelter area. They're hunting the families. The vampiri before Lucas heard this as well and smiled. My companions are more efficient than I. They will not waste time talking. By now, dozens of your colonists are empty shells. Lucas's jaw tightened, the first real anger showing in his expression. Danny, you still have your eyes closed? Yes, the boy's voice came from the hiding spot. Small and scared but obedient. Good kid. Keep them that way for another minute, Lucas said. Then turned his full attention back to the vampiri. I'm going to make you an offer. And you've got about 5 seconds to decide. You are in no position to offer anything. Human, I'm offering you a chance to be the first vampiri in history to survive an encounter with a human who's protecting something, Lucas said, his voice dropping to something cold and hard. You can either help me stop your friends from killing those families, or you can try to kill me and find out exactly how far a human will go when a child's life is on the line. The vampire stared at Lucas, calculations running behind those black eyes. It had never felt uncertainty before, had never questioned its superiority over other species, but something in Lucas's stance, in his absolute refusal to show submission, even after having his mind invaded, made the creature pause. Why would I help you? Because you're smart enough to know when you found something new, Lucas answered. You just learned that humans aren't like the other. Danny emerged from between the growth beds on shaking legs, his face streaked with tears, but his green eyes locked on Lucas with desperate trust. The boy looked at Kale and immediately pressed closer to Lucas's side. It is all right, young one, Kale said, his voice softer than before but still carrying that unnatural quality. I will not harm you. Your protector has taught me something unexpected today. Lucas kept himself positioned between Danny and the vampiri despite the claimed truce, his instincts not allowing complete trust. He pulled up the colony map on his wrist device, checking the shelter locations. Your mother is in Shelter 12 with about 40 other colonists, Lucas told Danny. The other two vampiri are trying to break through the blast doors. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they succeed. How do you know this? Kale asked, watching Lucas work with evident curiosity. Colony security protocols. I can see where everyone took shelter and track the door integrity from here, Lucas explained, already moving toward the greenhouse exit. Your friends are working on cutting through reinforced titanium. It's slowing them down, but they'll get through eventually. They move quickly through the empty corridors, Danny staying close to Lucas, while Kale followed with his unsettling grace. The emergency lighting cast long shadows that made everything look like a nightmare. Your species builds interesting defensive structures, Kale observed, but they are designed to delay, not prevent. You cannot truly stop us. Don't need to stop you, Lucas replied, scanning the hallway ahead. Just need to make you regret trying. There's a difference. Danny watched Lucas work, noticing how the man never seemed panicked or rushed. Every movement was deliberate, every decision made calmly, like fear simply didn't affect him the same way it affected everyone else. Lucas, why aren't you scared? The boy asked, needing to understand. Lucas glanced down at him while they walked. I am scared, Danny. Fear is your brain trying to keep you alive. But being scared and being controlled by fear are two different things. The fear is there to give me information, not to make my decisions. Kale listened to this exchange with what might have been respect. Most species freeze when confronted by my kind. Their fear paralyzes them completely. Yeah, well, humans evolve differently, Lucas said, checking a junction before leading them through. We're persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Fear of predators had to take a back seat to stubborn determination, or we would have starved. They reached a maintenance corridor that ran parallel to Shelter 12. Through the walls, they could hear the sound of cutting tools working on metal, accompanied by the terrified voices of the colonists inside. Lisa Carter's voice rose above the others, trying to keep everyone calm despite her own obvious fear. Stay away from the door. Move to the back of the shelter. Protect the children first. That's Mom, Danny whispered. And Lucas felt the boy's hand grip his sleeve tighter. Lucas examined the corridor layout, his mind working through possibilities. The maintenance area had access to several colony systems, including the environmental controls and power distribution. Kale, what are your companions likely to do once they breach the door? Lucas asked. The vampiri considered the question. They will enter quickly, overwhelm any resistance with speed, and begin the draining process. Vampiri feed efficiency demands we incapacitate multiple targets simultaneously to prevent escape, so they'll both go in at once. Yes. Splitting up would be tactically unsound. Lucas nodded, already formulating a plan. Danny, I need you to access that control panel. You're small enough to fit in the maintenance space behind it. Can you do that? The boy looked at the narrow gap behind the wall panel, then back at Lucas. His fear was still there, but he nodded. What do you need me to do? When I tell you, I need you to overload the power coupling for this corridor section. It'll cause a surge that will blow out the lights and scramble their sensors. Can you handle that? Danny swallowed hard but crawled into the maintenance space. His hands were shaking, but he found the power coupling Lucas had described and waited for the signal. Lucas turned to Kale. I need to know how your kind fights. What are your weaknesses? Kale seemed surprised by the direct question. We have no weaknesses that your species could exploit. Everyone has weaknesses, Lucas countered. You're fast, but that speed requires energy. You drain neural power, but that requires direct contact. You're confident, but confidence leads to predictable patterns. Now tell me what you don't want me to know. The vampiri studied Lucas for a long moment before answering. Extreme environmental changes disrupt our sensory processing. We track prey through a combination of thermal signatures, electromagnetic fields, and neural pattern recognition. Sudden chaos in those inputs can temporarily disorient us. How temporarily? 3 to 5 of your seconds. That'll work, Lucas said, moving to position himself near the shelter door. Here's what we're going to do. The sound of tearing metal announced the breach. The two vampiri had cut through the blast door and were pulling it open. Pale hands gripping the reinforced edges, like they were paper. Lisa Carter stood at the front of the huddled colonists, holding a maintenance tool like a weapon, even though everyone knew it would be useless against beings that could move faster than thought. The first vampiri stepped through the breach, tall and terrible. Its companion followed immediately after, both of them smiling at the cornered prey. How convenient, the first one said, its voice similar to Kale's, but carrying more cruelty. All gathered together. This will be efficient. Lucas waited until both vampiri were fully inside the shelter, waited until their attention was completely focused on the colonists, then gave the signal. Now, Danny. The boy pulled the coupling free and power surged through the corridor systems. Lights exploded in showers of sparks. Emergency systems shrieked contradictory warnings, and electromagnetic feedback screamed through every sensor in the area. The two vampiri staggered, their perfect grace disrupted as their senses were overwhelmed by chaos. 3 seconds of confusion. Lucas moved. He wasn't as fast as a vampiri, but he had planned his attack perfectly. He had positioned himself exactly where he needed to be. And 3 seconds was enough time for a human who knew what he was doing. His improvised weapon, a high-pressure coolant canister from the maintenance locker, released its contents directly into the first vampiri's face. The supercool liquid made the creature recoil in shock, and pain. Kale struck from the other side. grabbing his companion and throwing him back through the breached door with strength that matched the attacker's own. "Kale, you traitor!" The second vampire snarled, recovering his balance. "You side with prey?" "I side with those who have earned my respect," Kale replied, positioning himself beside Lucas. "These humans are not prey. They are survivors from a death world we cannot imagine." The two hostile vampiri regrouped in the corridor, now wary and angry. They studied Lucas and Kale with new caution, recognizing that this was no longer a simple hunt. "One human and one traitor cannot stop both of us," the first vampire said. "We will drain every mind in this shelter and leave you for last, Kale, so you can watch what your betrayal has cost." Lucas used those precious seconds of conversation to think, to observe, to learn. He watched how the vampiri moved, how they communicated with glances, how they positioned themselves for optimal attack patterns. "Lisa, get everyone out through the maintenance tunnel behind you," Lucas called into the shelter, not taking his eyes off the threat. "Danny will show you the way." "I'm not leaving you," Lisa shouted back. But Lucas could hear her organizing the evacuation, even as she protested. "Yes, you are. Because that's what keeps Danny safe," Lucas replied. "Now move." The colonists began filing into the maintenance space, Danny guiding them with surprising calmness for a child who had been terrified minutes before. Lucas's example had given the boy something to anchor himself against the fear. The two vampiri watched the evacuation with cold amusement. "Let them run. We will hunt them down one by one. There is nowhere on this colony they can hide from us." "You're right," Lucas agreed. "They can't hide from you. But they don't need to hide. They just need you distracted long enough for help to arrive. Help is days away. Help is already here," Lucas said, and smiled without humor. "You're looking at it. One human who's too stubborn to quit and too crazy to know when he's beaten. We call it the honey badger principle." The first vampire lunged forward with blinding speed. Lucas had been waiting for exactly that move and triggered another environmental control. Superheated steam from the damaged heating system flooded the corridor. Creating a scalding barrier, the vampiri pulled back, more surprised than injured. But those seconds allowed Kale to position himself better. Creating a defensive line with Lucas, "Your tricks will run out," the second vampiri hissed. "Probably," Lucas admitted, "but I've got a lot of tricks. Question is whether you've got enough time to see them all." Danny emerged from the maintenance tunnel, having successfully guided the colonists to a safer section. "Lucas, everyone's out." "Good kid." "Now stay back." Lucas ordered. The boy obeyed, but didn't flee. Something in him needed to see this, needed to understand how courage worked when everything was terrifying. The vampiri attacked together this time, coordinating their movements too. The injured vampiri retreated from the corridor trap, moving more cautiously now. Burns marked its pale skin where steam and chemicals had caught it, proving that these supposedly superior beings could indeed be hurt. Lucas pressed his advantage, not giving the creature time to recover. He activated the fire suppression system in the next corridor section, flooding it with oxygen-displacing foam that made breathing difficult and vision nearly impossible. "You fight like a coward," the vampiri snarled through the foam. "Using tricks instead of facing us directly." "I fight like a human," Lucas corrected, wiping foam from his own face. "We don't win by being stronger or faster. We win by being smarter and more stubborn than everything that wants us dead." Kale managed to drive his opponent back toward the breached shelter area, matching the other vampiri blow for blow. Seeing one of their own kind defending humans clearly unsettled the attackers. Breaking their assumption of species solidarity, Danny watched from his safer position, his fear gradually transforming into something else. He was still scared, but now he was also amazed, seeing that the monsters from stories could actually be fought, could actually be beaten. Lisa Carter appeared beside her son. Having made sure the other colonists were secure, she put her arm around Danny while watching Lucas work. That man is either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest. Both. I think, Danny whispered, unable to look away from the battle. The two hostile vampiri regrouped again, now showing signs of frustration. Their perfect hunt had become a prolonged battle, something they had never experienced before in thousands of years of preying on other species. Enough games, the first vampiri declared. We will kill the human first, then deal with the traitor. Then drain every mind in this colony, starting with the smallest children. The threat against the children was a mistake. It triggered something primal in Lucas, something that went beyond survival instinct into the realm of absolute refusal. Every human being carried the evolutionary legacy of ancestors who protected their young against impossible odds. It was written into their DNA, carved into their psychology by millions of years of choosing to fight rather than abandon their children. You just made this personal, Lucas said quietly, and his whole demeanor changed. The calm strategist disappeared, replaced by something colder and more dangerous. He accessed the colony's mining equipment controls through his wrist device. The facility had industrial cutting lasers designed to slice through solid rock, plasma torches hot enough to melt metal, and gravitational manipulators strong enough to move multi-ton ore containers. Lucas began reprogramming them from defensive tools into weapons. What are you doing? Kale asked, sensing the shift in the human's approach. Something I didn't want to do. Lucas replied, something that might damage the colony infrastructure. But if it's a choice between damaged equipment and dead kids, there's no choice at all. The mining lasers activated throughout the colony, their targeting systems now controlled by Lucas's security override. The hostile vampiri suddenly found themselves dodging high-energy beams that could cut through hull plating. This is insane, the second vampiri shouted, barely avoiding a laser that scored the wall behind him. You will destroy your own colony. Buildings can be rebuilt, Lucas answered, directing another laser strike. Children can't. Now you've got two options. Leave or keep finding out what a desperate human is capable of. The vampiri were fast enough to avoid the lasers, but the constant barrage forced them to focus on defense rather than offense. Lucas had turned the entire colony into an active combat zone where he controlled the high ground. Danny felt his mother's grip tighten as she watched the battle unfold. Lisa understood what Lucas was doing, understood the sacrifice he was willing to make to keep everyone safe. We need to help him, Lisa said suddenly, activating her own administrative controls. If Lucas can weaponize the mining equipment, we can weaponize everything else. She began accessing systems throughout the colony. Ventilation controls that could depressurize sections, water recycling that could flood corridors, even the gravity generators that kept everyone anchored in the colony's artificial environment. Other human colonists, seeing their leaders fight back, began adding their own creativity to the defense. Maintenance workers activated emergency bulkhead doors in patterns that created mazes. Technicians overloaded power grids to create electromagnetic interference. Even the children helped by monitoring sensor feeds and calling out vampiri positions. The concept of total warfare, of everyone contributing to the fight regardless of their role, was completely alien to species who saw combat as the domain of specialized warriors. The vampiri found themselves in a deteriorating tactical situation where the entire environment had turned hostile. Every corridor was a potential trap, every room a possible ambush, every system a weapon waiting to be activated. Your species is truly mad, Kale observed with something that might have been admiration. You turn everything into a battlefield. Death world, evolution, Lucas said, coordinating with Lisa to create overlapping fields of hazards. When your planet tries to kill you every single day, you learn to use whatever you have. Humans have been improvising weapons since we picked up the first rock. The first vampire lunged at Lucas through a gap in the laser coverage, moving with desperate speed. But Lucas had been waiting for exactly that move, had deliberately created the gap as bait. A gravitational manipulator activated beneath the vampire's feet, increasing local gravity to 3 times normal. The creature slammed into the floor with bone-breaking force. Its supernatural speed useless against physics. Lucas didn't hesitate. He activated another mining laser and aimed it at the fallen vampire. Move again and you die. I'm giving you one chance to surrender. The creature struggled against the increased gravity. Unable to rise, we do not surrender. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. You were, Lucas corrected. But you just learned that apex predators get replaced when something more adaptable comes along. That's evolution. Now make your choice. The second vampire, seeing its companion pinned and helpless, hesitated for the first time. The perfect confidence that came from thousands of years of uncontested hunting had cracked. Revealing uncertainty underneath, Kale moved to stand beside Lucas. Facing his former companion, the human speaks truth. Our species has grown complacent through easy victories. We forgot that true strength comes not from natural advantages, but from the will to survive against any odds. You betray your own kind for these prey animals? I recognize superior adaptation when I see it, Kale replied. These humans have survived on a world that makes our hunting grounds look gentle. They have earned respect through demonstrated capability. That is not betrayal. That is wisdom. Danny watched the standoff, still scared, but now understanding something important. Lucas wasn't winning because he was stronger or faster or had special powers. He was winning because he absolutely refused to lose. Because giving up simply wasn't an option in his mind. The boy thought about all the times he had been afraid. All the moments when fear had stopped him from trying something new. He looked at Lucas and saw what courage actually meant. It wasn't the absence of fear. It was the decision to act despite fear, to keep moving forward even when everything seemed impossible. An alarm suddenly blared through the colony systems. Lisa checked her readouts and her face went pale. Lucas, there's a third vampire on the move. It bypassed the main shelters, and it's heading for the secondary shelter where we evacuated the youngest children. Danny felt ice flood his veins. Pip was in that shelter, along with a dozen other kids under 6 years old. That would be Vex, Kale said grimly, the most vicious of our hunting party. He specifically targets the youngest and most vulnerable. It is his specialty. Lucas's jaw tightened. How fast can he move? Faster than me. Faster than these two. Vex is the quickest among us. Then we need to move faster than fast, Lucas said, making a decision. Kale, can you keep these two contained? I can try. Lucas looked at Lisa. Reroute every defensive system you can to the secondary shelter. Slow Vex down however possible. Danny, you're with me. What? Both Lisa and Danny said simultaneously. Danny knows the maintenance tunnels better than I do. He guided the evacuation earlier. Lucas explained, already moving. We can get there faster through the tunnel network than through the main corridors. There's no time to argue. Lisa wanted to protest, but she knew Lucas was right. She hugged her son quickly. Be brave, baby. I will, Mom, Danny promised. Then ran after Lucas into the maintenance tunnel entrance. They moved through the narrow spaces at a pace that had Danny struggling to keep up. Lucas navigated by memory and instinct, taking turns that Danny would have sworn were wrong, but somehow always led them in the right direction. Lucas. I'm scared, Danny admitted as they climbed through a vertical shaft. Good, Lucas replied, helping the boy up to the next level. Fear means your brain is working properly. What matters is what you do with that fear. How do you do it? How do you stay calm when everything is so scary? Lucas paused for a moment. looking at the boy in the dim emergency lighting. I focus on what I can control. I can't control being afraid, but I can control my choices. I can choose to keep moving, keep thinking, keep fighting. That's all any of us can do, Danny. We can choose how we. Lucas moved without the elegance of the vampiri, but with the practical efficiency of a human who had survived countless dangerous situations. He grabbed a broken piece of metal railing and swung it at Vex's head. With full force, Vex caught the makeshift weapon effortlessly, his speed making Lucas's attack look like slow motion. But the vampiri's smile faded when Lucas didn't pull back, instead using the caught railing as leverage to kick directly at Vex's knee, the lodger being shifted slightly, avoiding the full impact but had to release his grip on the railing to do so. Lucas immediately followed up with a strike toward Vex's throat, not trying to match speed, but using angles and momentum. Clever. Vex acknowledged blocking the strike, but ultimately futile. You cannot win through technique alone when I'm simply superior in every physical measure. Don't need to win, Lucas grunted, already moving to his next attack. Just need to buy time. Danny stood frozen, watching the impossible battle. Vex was faster than anything the boy had ever seen, strong enough to tear through metal with his bare hands, and clearly experienced in combat. But Lucas kept coming, kept attacking, kept forcing Vex to pay attention to him instead of the shelter full of children. Every time Vex tried to move toward the shelter door, Lucas threw himself in the way. Every time Vex tried to end the fight quickly, Lucas had already positioned himself to turn the killing blow into a glancing hit. It wasn't pretty fighting, and it wasn't heroic in the way stories portrayed combat. It was desperate, brutal survival tactics from a human who had learned to fight on a planet where everything wanted him dead. You are taking damage faster than you can recover, Vex observed, landing a solid hit that sent Lucas stumbling. Another minute and you will be unable to continue. Then I better make this minute count, Lucas said, spitting blood and immediately attacking again. Danny watched Lucas take hit after hit, saw bruises forming, saw cuts opening, but the man refused to stay down. Every time Vex knocked him back, Lucas got up and kept fighting. The boy felt something change inside himself. His fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. No longer paralyzed his thinking. Lucas had shown him that courage wasn't about being unafraid. It was about choosing to act when action mattered most. Danny looked around the corridor, searching for something to help, some way to contribute like Lucas had taught him with the power coupling earlier. The colony's environmental systems were damaged in this section from the earlier fighting. Exposed wiring sparked where panels had been torn loose, coolant leaked from broken pipes, and the emergency power systems were running at dangerous levels. The boy's eyes fixed on the power distribution box mounted on the wall. His mother had taught him how the colony systems worked, had shown him safety protocols for exactly this kind of emergency. Lucas was driven back again, now bleeding from multiple wounds, but still standing between Vex and the shelter. The vampiri was toying with him now, clearly enjoying breaking down human stubbornness piece by piece. Your persistence is admirable but pointless, Vex said, backhanding Lucas hard enough to crack the wall behind him. I will drain you last so you can watch me consume every child in that shelter. I want you to die knowing you failed to protect them. That threat was another mistake. Threatening the children in front of Lucas triggered the same primal response that had made him turn the entire colony into a weapon. Lucas roared something wordless and launched himself at Vex with renewed fury. The attack was reckless, leaving him open, but it caught the vampiri off guard with its sheer ferocity. They crashed together into a section of corridor where structural damage had weakened the floor. The metal groaned under their combined impact. Danny made his decision. He ran to the power distribution box and opened it, revealing the colony's electrical grid controls. His hands were shaking, but he remembered what Lucas had said about fear and choice. The boy began rerouting power. overloading circuits in a specific pattern that his mother had warned him never to attempt. Because of how dangerous it was, Vex threw Lucas off him with bone-crushing force. The human hit the floor hard, and this time was slow getting up, clearly reaching the limits of what his body could endure. "Enough play," Vex declared, turning toward the shelter door. "Time to feast. Hey!" Danny shouted, his young voice cracking with fear but carrying determination underneath. "Leave them alone." Vex turned, noticing the human child for the first time. Ah, how sweet. A baby human trying to be brave. "I will drain you first so your protector can watch." The vampire moved toward Danny with terrifying speed. Lucas tried to rise, tried to intercept, but his battered body couldn't move fast enough. Danny pulled the final connection in the power distribution box. Every electrical system in the corridor section overloaded simultaneously. The damaged wiring that Danny had been standing near erupted with energy discharge, creating a massive electromagnetic pulse focused directly at the approaching vampire. Vex stopped mid-stride as the pulse hit him, disrupting the electromagnetic fields he used for sensory processing. He staggered, momentarily disoriented. It was only a 2-second window of vulnerability. Lucas used those 2 seconds. He grabbed an exposed coolant pipe and tore it free with desperate strength. Supercooled liquid sprayed directly into Vex's face, freezing the vampire's eyes and forcing him to react blindly. Then Lucas did something that shocked even Danny. He grabbed Vex in a grappling hold, wrapping his arms and legs around the larger being in what wrestlers called a full body lock. "Danny, run!" Lucas shouted, "Get everyone out through the maintenance tunnel." But the boy stood frozen, watching Lucas hold onto the thrashing vampire with every ounce of strength remaining in his damaged body. Vex roared and slammed Lucas against the walls, trying to break the grip. Lucas held on, accepting the punishment, using his own weight and positioning to prevent Vex from reaching the shelter or moving freely. "Let go, you insignificant prey animal." Vex snarled, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Confusion at this tactic that made no tactical sense. "Humans are persistence hunters," Lucas said through gritted teeth, echoing what he had told Kale earlier. "We don't win by being better. We win by holding on until our opponent can't continue." Danny suddenly understood what Lucas was doing. He wasn't trying to defeat Vex. He was trying to restrain him long enough for rescue to arrive. Sacrificing his own safety to buy time, Boy ran to the shelter door controls and began the emergency override sequence his mother had taught him. The heavy door started opening, revealing the frightened children inside. "Everyone into the maintenance tunnel now," Danny ordered, his voice shaking but clear. "Follow the yellow markers to Section 9. The children began evacuating, their alien caretakers helping guide them. Pip paused beside Danny. "Come with us." "Not yet," Danny said, watching Lucas struggle to maintain his hold on the increasingly violent vampire. "I can't leave him." Vex finally managed to grab Lucas's head, his pale fingers spreading across the human skull to begin the neural drain. Danny's heart stopped, remembering what this process did to people, but Lucas had experienced it before with Kale. He knew what was coming and had prepared himself mentally. The drain began and Vex's confident smile returned, expecting to leave another empty shell. Then the vampire's expression twisted in shock and pain as he encountered the full force of human memory shaped by Earth's brutal evolution. He experienced Lucas's entire life. Childhood learning to survive in Earth's wilderness. Teenage years mastering endurance hunting techniques that had sustained humanity for millions of years. Adult decades facing down predators and environmental hazards that would have killed any normal species. He felt the accumulated trauma of living on a death world where everything from the weather to the wildlife actively tried to kill you, where survival required constant vigilance and absolute refusal to give up. He experienced the human capacity for what biologists called persistence, what warriors called stubbornness, and what Lucas simply called getting back up, the neural connection overloaded. Vex's mind with information his brain had never evolved to process. The sheer chaotic determination of human consciousness proved too much for predatory neural structures designed to feed on fearful prey. Vex screamed and broke contact, releasing Lucas and staggering backward. The Vampiri's black eyes were wide with something approaching terror. "What are you?" Vex whispered, the same question Kale had asked, but with more horror in the tone. Lucas collapsed to his knees, dazed and bleeding but still conscious. "I'm a human protecting kids. That makes me the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." The sound of running footsteps announced the arrival of Kale and Lisa Carter. Kale had successfully contained the other two Vampiri, and Lisa had brought human security personnel and armed colonists. They stopped in shock, seeing Lucas barely conscious, Danny standing protectively near him, and Vex backing away from a human child and a wounded human adult. "Impossible," one of the Aventi security officers whispered. He survived direct neural contact with Vex. "No one survives Vex." Kale moved to restrain Vex, his expression mixed with respect and something like pride. "I told you, humans from Earth are not like other species. They are survivors from a world that makes our worst hunting grounds look gentle." Vex didn't resist as Kale secured him. The fight had gone out of the larger Vampiri, replaced by genuine confusion at encountering something his